Picture this. I walked into my daughter's wedding, a celebration I had poured my heart, soul, and life savings into. But instead of a warm embrace, she looked at me with cold, distant eyes and said, "Dad, I'm sorry, but you weren't invited. Please leave." The rejection cut deeper than any blade. I walked away quietly, my heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. But within 2 hours, her dream wedding transformed into an absolute nightmare. Was it revenge? No. It was justice served ice cold. Before we dive deeper into this story, please hit that subscribe button and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Your support means everything to us. The champagne flute trembled in my weathered hands before slipping through my fingers like sand through an hourglass. Crystal fragments exploded across the pristine marble floor, each shard catching the light like fallen tears. The sound echoed through the opulent ballroom like a gunshot, causing conversations to halt mid-sentence. Every designer-clad guest turned to stare at the source of the disturbance. "Dad, what in God's name are you doing here?" Lillian's voice sliced through the wedding reception like a sword through silk. Her wedding gown, a masterpiece of Italian lace and Swarovski crystals that had cost me 3 months of my construction company's profits, rustled as she stepped backward, away from me as if I carried some contagious disease. "You weren't supposed to come. You weren't invited." The words hit me like a physical blow. I stood frozen in the grand ballroom's entrance, still clutching the velvet gift box I'd carefully wrapped with my own calloused hands. The same hands that had built houses, erected buildings, and worked 18-hour days to afford every luxury she'd ever desired. White roses from Ecuador, her specific request, filled every corner of the venue, their intoxicating fragrance mixing with the expensive perfumes of guests who considered me beneath their notice. The crystal chandelier overhead cast rainbow patterns across walls that had required a year's worth of overtime to afford. "Sweetheart, it's your wedding day," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. "I just wanted to congratulate you both, to see my little girl on the happiest day of her life." Preston appeared beside her like a shadow materializing from darkness. His tuxedo was perfectly tailored, probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment, and his smile was as sharp and cold as a winter wind. Everything about him screamed old money, privilege, and the kind of arrogance that comes from never wanting for anything. "Mr. Clark, I believe there's been some sort of misunderstanding here." His voice dripped with condescension, the way someone might address a servant who had wandered into the wrong room. What misunderstanding? I looked between them, searching Lillian's face for any trace of the little girl who used to run into my arms after school, eyes bright with stories about her day. That little girl seemed to have vanished completely. Lillian glanced nervously at the guests, who were now openly staring at our family drama. Women draped in designer gowns whispered behind crystal champagne glasses. Men in $1,000 suits pretended to examine their phones while clearly eavesdropping on every painful word. This is a private family celebration," she said, her voice tight with embarrassment. "Immediate family only." The irony of those words nearly broke me. For 28 years, I had been her entire family. After her mother died when Lillian was just 3 years old, I had been mother, father, provider, protector, cheerleader, and safety net all rolled into one. I had sacrificed my youth, my social life, my chances at remarriage, my retirement savings, everything, to ensure she never felt the absence of anything, especially love. "I paid for this wedding, Lillian." The words came out steady and factual, though my heart was breaking with each syllable. "Every single flower, every place setting, the dress you're wearing, this venue, the orchestra, everything you're surrounded by right now." Preston's jaw tightened visibly. "Money doesn't buy class, sir, and it certainly doesn't buy respect." "Preston's right," Lillian whispered, unable to meet my eyes. "This isn't about money. It's about fitting in. You don't understand the kind of people who are here tonight. They're different from us." But I understood perfectly. The man who had built their houses, who had employed dozens of workers, who had bootstrapped himself from poverty to prosperity. That man wasn't good enough for their society parties. The very success that had enabled their fairy tale wedding somehow made me too common to witness it. Around us, conversations had stopped entirely. A photographer lowered his expensive camera. The string quartet continued playing, oblivious to the human drama unfolding in their elegant backdrop. Waiters in white gloves paused in their service, uncertain whether to intervene or retreat. "I see," I said quietly, setting the velvet gift box on a nearby table between untouched champagne glasses and white orchids. "I wouldn't want to embarrass you." "Dad, please don't make this harder than it needs to be," she pleaded, but her voice carried no warmth, no affection, only the desire for me to disappear and stop disrupting her perfect evening. I studied her face one last time, memorizing features I had kissed goodnight for 18 years straight. Her mother's emerald green eyes, now cold as river stones in winter. The smile I had worked double shifts to put braces on, now turned away from me in shame. The daughter I had raised with unconditional love, now treating me like an unwelcome stranger. "You're absolutely right," I said, my voice barely audible above the ambient noise. "I don't belong here." The walk to the exit felt like the longest journey of my life. Each step echoed in the vast space. Designer heels clicked against marble behind me as conversation slowly resumed. Someone laughed, high and artificial, and the sound felt like mockery. My work boots, polished to a shine for this special occasion, felt heavy against the pristine floor that probably cost more per square foot than most people's monthly salaries. Outside, the cool March evening air hit my lungs like freedom itself. The parking lot stretched before me, filled with luxury vehicles I would never be able to afford. Mercedes, BMWs, Audis, even a few Bentleys and Rolls-Royces. My pickup truck sat alone in the far corner, exactly where it belonged in their world. I pulled out my phone with steady hands. 25 years of building Clark construction from nothing had taught me patience, strategy, and the importance of timing. 25 years of loving an ungrateful daughter had taught me the true meaning of betrayal, but it had also taught me the value of documentation, preparation, and follow-through. The screen illuminated with several missed calls from my attorney about a property dispute, but I scrolled past them to find a different contact, one I hadn't needed to call in months, but suddenly required urgently. My thumb hovered over the name. Patricia Kellerman, First National Bank Business Services. Inside that ballroom, my daughter was celebrating her new life without the man who had made it all possible. Outside, under the darkening sky, I was about to teach her the most expensive lesson of her privileged life. The phone rang twice before a professional voice answered. "First National Bank Business Services. This is Patricia speaking. How may I assist you this evening?" "Patricia, this is James Clark, account number 7794512. I need to initiate immediate stop payments on several large transactions." Heavy glass doors sealed shut behind me with the finality of a tomb closing. The wedding music faded to a distant whisper as I walked across the asphalt parking lot, each step more deliberate than the last. The gift I had carefully selected and wrapped, a family heirloom that had belonged to Lillian's grandmother, remained abandoned on their reception table, just like everything else I had ever given her. The March wind carried the scent of approaching rain, and darker clouds were gathering above the venue's Gothic spires, casting ominous shadows across the luxury vehicles that cost more than most people earned in several years. My boots crunched on loose gravel as I reached my pickup truck, keys already in my calloused hand. Inside the cab, silence enveloped me like a protective cocoon. The dashboard clock showed 3:52 p.m. Plenty of time before the banks closed on Saturday. Plenty of time to make several very important phone calls that would change everything. I scrolled through my contacts with methodical precision until I found the number I needed. First National Bank Business Services appeared on my screen, accompanied by a professional headshot I remembered from our last in-person meeting about construction loans. My finger hovered over the call button for exactly 3 seconds. 3 seconds to consider the nuclear option I was about to deploy. Then I pressed dial. First National Bank Business Services. This is Patricia speaking. How may I assist you today? Patricia, this is James Clark, account number 7794512. I need to initiate stop payments on multiple authorized transactions immediately. Of course, Mr. Clark, let me access your account. Can you please verify your social security number and your mother's maiden name for security purposes? Standard banking procedure. I provided the information while watching more wedding guests arrive through the venue's front entrance. Women adjusting silk evening wraps, men checking expensive watches, none of them having any idea what was about to unfold inside their exclusive celebration. Thank you, sir. I can see several significant transactions from today's date. Which specific payments would you like to stop? All wedding-related expenditures, venue rental, catering services, floral arrangements, photography, musical entertainment, transportation services. Each item rolled off my tongue like a military inventory. 25 years of managing construction contracts had taught me to remember every detail, every authorization code, every financial commitment. Sir, these represent very substantial amounts. Are you absolutely certain about stopping all of these payments? Completely certain, Patricia. There's been a significant change in circumstances. The clicking of computer keys filled the brief pause. Through my windshield, I watched a white van with Spokane's premier catering painted in elegant gold lettering pull up to the venue's service entrance. I'll need verbal authorization codes for any transactions exceeding $10,000, Mr. Clark. I recited the memorized sequences from memory. A quarter-century of running Clark construction had drilled into me the importance of remembering every crucial number, every contract detail, every payment authorization that could make or break a deal. Stop payment orders are now in effect and being processed immediately. Confirmation numbers are being generated as we speak. Is there anything else I can assist you with today? That covers everything from the banking side. Thank you for your efficiency, Patricia. My second call went to Spokane's most prestigious catering company, the same company Lillian had insisted on despite their astronomical prices being equivalent to feeding a small army for a month. Elegant Affairs Catering. This is Duncan speaking. How may I help you? Duncan, this is James Clark. I'm calling regarding the Preston wedding reception that's currently in progress. Oh yes, absolutely, Mr. Clark. Everything is going magnificently. The guests are absolutely raving about our truffle-stuffed salmon and the chocolate mousse towers. The bride looks absolutely radiant. I'm afraid there's been a financial complication, Duncan. Payment authorization has been permanently revoked. You'll want to protect your equipment and cease all food service immediately. The silence stretched like a taut wire ready to snap. I'm sorry, sir, could you repeat that? I'm not sure I understood correctly. The bank has issued stop payment orders on your entire contract, effective this moment. I strongly suggest you secure your assets and equipment immediately. But we're in the middle of active service. The main course hasn't even been served yet. There are 60 guests waiting for dinner. That's certainly unfortunate timing, Duncan. You might want to speak directly with the wedding party about immediate alternative payment arrangements. Duncan disconnected without another word. Smart businessman. He understood the implications immediately. The florist answered on the first ring, her voice bright with satisfaction. Spokane Botanical Designs, this is Rebecca speaking. Rebecca, this is James Clark regarding the Preston wedding florals. Mr. Clark, the arrangements turned out absolutely stunning. The bride was in tears when she saw the altar display with those imported Ecuadorian roses. It's honestly some of our finest work. There's been a payment authorization issue, Rebecca. Banking authorization has been canceled. You'll need to collect your arrangements immediately if you want to recover any value. Collect them? But Mr. Clark, they're integrated throughout the entire venue design. They're part of the wedding ceremony itself. Business is business, Rebecca. I suggest you move quickly before other vendors arrive. 4 additional calls followed in rapid succession. The photography team, the string quartet, the luxury transportation service, even the specialized linen company that had provided those Egyptian cotton table settings. Each conversation followed an identical pattern: professional courtesy, followed by growing confusion, followed by rising panic, followed by hurried disconnections as vendors scrambled to protect themselves from financial disaster. My phone displayed 4:23 p.m. when the final call ended. Through the windshield, I could see a white van with Spokane Botanical Designs pulling up to the venue's service entrance. Rebecca, most likely, arriving to salvage whatever she could from the floral arrangements that had cost more than most people's monthly rent. Inside that ballroom, Lillian was probably still graciously accepting congratulations, completely oblivious to the fact that her fairy tale wedding was about to transform into a very expensive nightmare. Preston was likely holding court with his father's business associates, confident in his superiority over simple construction workers like me. Neither of them understood what they had truly lost when they dismissed the man who had made their entire lifestyle possible. I started the engine and slowly pulled out of my parking space, driving deliberately past the venue's front entrance. Through the tall, arched windows, I caught glimpses of the reception in full swing. Crystal glasses raised in elegant toasts, designer-clad figures moving gracefully across the polished marble floors. All of it about to change in ways they couldn't imagine. My phone buzzed with an incoming call. Lillian's contact photo appeared on the screen, a picture from her college graduation, the last time she had hugged me without needing money first. I let it ring until voicemail picked up. The dashboard clock read 4:28 p.m. when the first truck arrived. Spokane Botanical Designs was painted in elegant gold script across the white panel truck that pulled into the venue's service area with purposeful urgency. Rebecca emerged from the driver's seat with two assistants, all three moving with the focused efficiency of professionals who understood they were racing against time and other vendors. They unloaded large plastic containers and professional floral preservation equipment, their movements sharp and businesslike. Through the venue's tall windows, I could observe the cocktail reception in full swing. Crystal champagne glasses caught and refracted the chandelier light as guests mingled around the very arrangements that were about to vanish. Preston gestured grandly to a circle of men in expensive suits, probably explaining his latest business venture or discussing market opportunities. Neither the bride nor groom noticed the florist team entering through the side service doors. Lillian stood near the main reception entrance, absolutely radiant in $12,000 worth of Italian silk and hand-sewn pearls, graciously accepting a steady stream of congratulations from relatives and family friends. Her laugh carried across the ballroom, bright, carefree, and genuinely happy. That sound was about to change dramatically. Rebecca appeared in the ballroom doorway carrying two large preservation containers, her assistants flanking the smaller decorative displays throughout the venue. Wedding guests began turning their heads, confusion slowly replacing the celebratory atmosphere as the team started systematically dismantling the centerpiece altar arrangement. "Excuse me?" Lillian approached Rebecca with the practiced, professional smile of someone accustomed to managing service staff efficiently. "We're in the middle of our reception celebration. Whatever maintenance you need can certainly wait until after our event concludes." Rebecca straightened her posture, holding a bundle of pristine white orchids that had been flown in specifically from Ecuador at enormous expense. "Ma'am, I'm Rebecca from Spokane Botanical Designs. Payment authorization for these arrangements was canceled 47 minutes ago. I'm legally required to recover our property immediately." Lillian's confident smile flickered slightly but remained fixed in place. "That's absolutely impossible. Everything was completely paid for weeks ago. The account holder, James Clark, contacted us directly at 4:15 this afternoon." Rebecca continued methodically removing flowers with the detached professionalism of someone who had dealt with financial complications before. "All payment authorizations have been permanently stopped. I have written documentation authorizing me to collect our merchandise." Color began draining from Lillian's face like water from a broken dam. Around them, wedding guests had stopped their conversations entirely, turning to watch this unexpected drama unfold in real time. Preston crossed the ballroom in quick, aggressive strides, his expression rapidly shifting from confusion to indignation to barely controlled rage. "What exactly is happening here?" His voice carried the commanding authority of someone completely unaccustomed to being questioned or challenged. "Payment complications, sir. We're collecting unpaid merchandise as per our standard contract terms. Rebecca's assistant began carefully wrapping the elaborate altar arrangement in protective plastic sheeting. This is completely unacceptable. Preston's face flushed deep red. Get your manager on the phone immediately. I am the manager, sir, and our contract explicitly states that canceled payment authorization voids all service obligations. Rebecca nodded toward her assistants, who began systematically collecting table centerpieces while 60 guests watched in stunned, uncomfortable silence. At that precise moment, the Elegant Affairs catering van pulled up outside, and Duncan emerged with 3 staff members, their faces grim with professional purpose. They entered through the main doors this time, making absolutely no attempt at discretion or subtlety. Lillian watched her imported orchids disappearing into plastic containers, her perfect composure beginning to crack like fine china under pressure. There has to be some kind of mistake. My father wouldn't. He couldn't possibly. Ma'am, we need to cease all food service operations immediately. Duncan approached with a clipboard and official documentation. Payment authorization was revoked at 4:23 p.m. We're contractually obligated to protect our equipment and recover our remaining inventory. Preston stepped protectively between Duncan and Lillian, his voice rising to a level that echoed throughout the ballroom. This is my wedding reception. You cannot simply stop service in the middle of a formal event. Sir, we can and we legally must, Duncan replied with professional calm. When payment authorization gets canceled, industry standard procedure requires immediate asset protection. He signaled his team, who began covering serving stations with white protective cloths and disconnecting equipment. Wedding guests shuffled nervously throughout the ballroom, their champagne glasses sitting untouched in their manicured hands. What had been elegant conversation had devolved into worried whispers and concerned murmurs. Someone's phone rang, sharp and intrusive in the increasingly tense atmosphere. The string quartet stopped playing when their equipment coordinator arrived with official paperwork. Microphones went silent. Sound speakers powered down completely. Even the carefully arranged ambient lighting shifted as the audio technician methodically disconnected his professional mixing board. Lillian stood frozen in the center of her rapidly collapsing reception, wedding dress still pristine amid the chaos of disappearing services and vendors. This can't be happening, not today, not like this. Lillian, what kind of financial arrangement did your family make for this event? Preston's voice carried a new undercurrent of suspicion, his anger beginning to redirect from the vendors toward his bride. I don't know. Everything was supposed to be completely handled. Her voice cracked with the first genuine hint of panic I had heard from her in years. The venue coordinator appeared from her office, phone pressed against her ear, speaking in urgent, hushed whispers. She approached Lillian with obvious reluctance, clearly dreading the conversation she was about to have. Mrs. Preston, I've just spoken directly with our accounting department. All payments for today's event originated from a single business account belonging to James Clark. That account holder has personally revoked authorization for every single transaction. Lillian's careful composure shattered completely. The little girl who had dismissed her own father from her wedding celebration was finally beginning to understand the scope of his generosity and the devastating consequences of her casual cruelty. With trembling fingers, she pulled out her phone and scrolled to a contact she hadn't used for anything other than financial requests in years. Outside in the parking lot, my phone began to ring with increasing desperation. My phone vibrated against the truck's dashboard, Lillian's contact photo illuminating the screen like a beacon of desperation. Through the windshield, I could see her silhouette in the venue doorway, phone pressed against her ear with trembling urgency. I didn't answer. Not yet. 28 years of loving this woman had led inexorably to this moment. 28 years of believing that unconditional sacrifice would somehow build character instead of destroying it. 28 years of being wrong. The memories flooded back like water through a broken dam. Lillian was only 3 when her mother died. Cancer took Sarah in 6 brutal months, leaving me with a toddler who asked for mommy every morning and cried herself to sleep every night. I could have remarried quickly, found someone to help raise her, shared the burden with a stepmother who might have taught her different values. Instead, I chose to be everything Lillian needed myself. "Daddy, will you read me just one more story?" she'd asked at age 5, curled against my chest in her pink princess pajamas. I'd already read 3 books, had an early construction meeting at sunrise, needed sleep desperately. But her emerald green eyes, Sarah's eyes, held such absolute trust and love. "Of course, sweetheart. Daddy always has time for you." That became my sacred motto, my guiding principle, my fatal mistake. James Clark always had time for Lillian, always had money for Lillian, always had whatever she needed to be happy and secure. Private school tuition consumed nearly half my quarterly profits when she turned 8. She needs the best education money can buy, I told myself, writing checks that meant postponing business expansion and eliminating any possibility of personal luxuries. Lillian hugged me fiercely when I told her about Riverside Academy's acceptance. "Thank you, Daddy. I'll study really, really hard and make you so proud of me." She did study hard initially, straight A's through elementary school, starring roles in school plays where I sat in the front row clapping louder than any other parent, my construction calloused hands raw from applause. "Did you see me remember all my lines, Daddy? I was thinking about you the whole time." She would find me afterward, beaming with accomplishment and pure joy. High school changed everything. Riverside Academy meant wealthy classmates with trust funds and summer homes in the Hamptons. Lillian started noticing differences, making comparisons, developing expectations. Her Sweet 16 party cost more than most people's annual salary. A BMW appeared in our driveway, professional catering, designer decorations, a guest list that read like a society page. "Everyone else got BMWs, Dad. This Honda is kind of embarrassing when Preston's friends come over." That was 2015, the first time money became an expectation rather than a gift to be appreciated. I should have recognized the warning signs then. College expenses nearly bankrupted the business expansion I'd been planning for years. Northwestern University, Lillian's dream school, required sacrifices that went far beyond simple tuition payments. Sorority dues, spring break trips to Cancun, study abroad programs in Italy, designer clothing to fit in with her wealthy classmates. Each semester brought new financial demands delivered with casual entitlement. "Dad, I need $3,000 for the business networking trip. It's absolutely essential for my future career prospects." Phone calls became transaction requests. Visits home decreased to major holidays only. When Lillian did call, conversations lasted exactly long enough to explain why she needed money and how quickly she needed it transferred to her account. Graduate school brought Preston into her life. Old money, family connections, social standing, everything I couldn't provide despite decades of backbreaking work and financial sacrifice. Lillian started making comments about my appearance at family gatherings. "Could you maybe wear something other than those work boots when you visit? Preston's friends will be there, and they're very image conscious." The woman who once thanked me for bedtime stories was now embarrassed by the man who had provided everything she'd ever wanted or needed. My success in construction meant nothing to her new social circle. Building the company that funded her princess lifestyle somehow made me unsuitable for that same lifestyle. Last Christmas, she'd introduced me to Preston's parents as Lillian's father, who owns a small construction business. Small business. 25 years of building Clark Construction from absolute nothing, employing 60 families, earning enough profit to support her extravagant lifestyle, all reduced to a dismissive small business. "Dad, we need to discuss wedding funding. Preston's family has certain expectations for the ceremony venue and reception. Not, thank you for offering to pay. Not, we'd be grateful for your help. Just expectations, as if my life's work existed solely to meet her social requirements." The wedding planning meetings felt like hostile business negotiations. Lillian brought detailed spreadsheets. Preston offered condescending opinions about cost efficiency. Neither acknowledged that every line item represented months of my physical labor and financial sacrifice. Flowers imported from Ecuador at ridiculous expense. Champagne that cost more per bottle than my workers earned in a full day. a dress worth more than most families' monthly mortgage payments. This isn't about money, Dad. It's about quality and presentation. Preston's family understands quality. Quality that my money bought, but my presence somehow diminished. The very success that enabled their fairy tale wedding made me too common, too working class, too embarrassing to attend it. My phone buzzed again. Lillian's fourth attempt in 6 minutes. Through the venue windows, I could see her pacing frantically, wedding dress trailing behind her like a flag of surrender. 28 years of sacrifice had created this moment. Not a grateful daughter celebrating her father's generosity, but a desperate woman finally understanding what she had so carelessly thrown away. The irony was absolutely perfect. The unconditional love that had spoiled her beyond repair would now teach her its true value. I reached for the phone. Time to begin her education. The engine hummed quietly as I pulled out of the venue parking lot, Lillian's increasingly frantic silhouette shrinking in my rearview mirror. Her phone glowed like a lighthouse beacon in the gathering dusk, calling me for the 9th time in 12 minutes. Each ring felt deliberate, controlled. This was my timing now, not hers. The drive home took 25 minutes through Spokane's Saturday evening traffic. 25 minutes of watching my phone light up repeatedly with Lillian's name, each call more desperate than the last. By the time I reached my driveway, she had left 6 voicemails. I listened to them while sitting in my garage, engine off, overhead door closing behind me like a curtain falling on the day's opening act. Voicemail 1, delivered in a tight, controlled voice. Dad, something's seriously wrong with the payments. There's been some kind of banking mistake. Call me back immediately. Voicemail 2, with rising panic. This isn't funny anymore. The vendors are literally taking everything. People are staring and asking questions. Just call me back right now. Voicemail 3, anger creeping in. Please, Dad, I don't understand what's happening. Preston's family is asking questions I can't possibly answer. You have to fix this. Voicemail 4, her voice finally cracking. I need you. Please pick up, please. Everyone's looking at me like, please answer your phone. Voicemail 5, barely audible through tears. Dad, I'm scared. Everything's falling apart and I don't know what to do. Please help me understand what I did wrong. Voicemail 6, delivered from what sounded like a different location. We had to leave. The venue coordinator said we needed to settle all outstanding bills before we could stay. Please call me back. Please. The phone rang again as I finished listening to the 6th message. Lillian's name appeared on the screen, accompanied by a photograph from her college graduation. The last time she had hugged me without needing money first. I answered on the 7th ring. Hello, Lillian. Dad, finally, what have you done? How could you possibly destroy my wedding day? Her voice carried pure panic now, none of the controlled dismissal from that afternoon. Good. Panic meant awareness, and awareness was the first step toward genuine understanding. I didn't destroy anything, I said, keeping my voice level and professional. I simply stopped paying for things. You can't just stop. This is my wedding day. There are 60 people here asking why the flowers disappeared and why dinner service ended in the middle of cocktails. Where exactly are you calling from? The hotel. We had to... The venue coordinator said we needed to settle the bills immediately or they'd ask us to leave. That explained the echo in her voice, the absence of wedding music and celebration in the background. They'd been effectively evicted from their own reception. Lillian, I need you to listen very carefully. When was the last time you thanked me for anything? What? Dad, this isn't the time for lectures and guilt trips. I need you to call these vendors immediately and fix this disaster. Answer the question. When was the last time you expressed genuine gratitude for my financial support? Silence stretched between us like a chasm. In the background, I could hear Preston's voice, sharp with frustration and growing panic. I don't remember specific instances, but I've always been grateful. You know that. Actually, I don't know that. What I know is that 3 hours ago you told me I didn't belong at your wedding. A wedding I paid for entirely. I didn't mean it like that. I was stressed. Wedding day nerves, you know? Her voice shifted. taking on the wheedling tone she'd perfected in college when requesting money for spring break trips and sorority events. "Dad, please, I'll make this up to you somehow. We can talk about everything later, but right now I desperately need you to authorize the payments so we can save what's left of the reception." "What's left?" "The cake is still here, some guests are still here, the photographer is waiting to see if we can work something out financially." "And what exactly do you plan to use for payment?" Another pause. Longer this time, more uncomfortable. I thought you would handle it. You always handle everything." "I always have. That's absolutely true. Do you have any idea how much I've spent on you over the past 28 years? "Dad, please don't make me guess numbers right now. I'm in complete crisis mode." "Take a guess, rough estimate." Silence filled with the sound of her breathing and Preston's increasingly agitated voice in the background. "I don't know. Maybe $50,000? I almost laughed. 50,000 wouldn't have covered her sophomore year at Northwestern. "Lillian, I've spent over $900,000 on your education, housing, transportation, and lifestyle since your mother died. That doesn't include what I spent today on your wedding." The line went completely quiet except for the sound of her breathing. 900? That can't possibly be right. It's actually conservative. I have detailed documentation for every expenditure going back to your 4th birthday party. Why are you telling me this now? Because you've never asked. In 28 years, you've never once inquired about the cost of your lifestyle or expressed any concern about the financial burden it placed on me. Burden? I'm your daughter. Yes, you are. And I loved you enough to sacrifice everything for your happiness. The question is, what have you ever sacrificed for mine? Preston's voice grew louder in the background. She covered the phone for a moment, their muffled argument barely audible through her hand. "Dad, Preston's family is really upset. They're asking serious questions about our finances and our family's integrity. They want to know how we're going to pay for all of this. That's between you and your husband now. But I don't have that kind of money. You know I don't. Then perhaps it's time you learned how to earn it." The silence that followed lasted nearly 45 seconds. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to understand what you threw away this afternoon when you dismissed the man who made your entire lifestyle possible." "I understand now. I was completely wrong. Can we please fix this?" "We'll see. I'm going to be reviewing our entire financial relationship. There will be comprehensive documentation. We'll discuss this properly when I'm ready." I ended the call and turned off my phone completely. Through my kitchen window, I could see the lights of Spokane beginning to twinkle in the distance. Lillian was somewhere out there, facing her first night of genuine financial independence. The real education was just beginning. Warm light from my desk lamp cast familiar shadows across 28 years of meticulous record-keeping. Filing cabinets lined one wall of my home office like steel sentinels, guarding financial secrets Lillian had never bothered to ask about. Tonight, those secrets would finally serve their intended purpose. Fresh coffee steamed beside my computer as I opened the first drawer, labeled Lillian, Education 1995-2020. Behind me, the house settled into evening quiet, but my mind buzzed with the systematic energy that had built Clark Construction from nothing into a 60-employee operation, generating millions in annual revenue. This wasn't revenge. This was a comprehensive audit. The first folder contained Riverside Academy records, 12 years of private school tuition, each payment meticulously documented with bank transfers and semester reports, $8,000 per year in 2008, climbing steadily to $15,000 by graduation in 2015. The mathematics was sobering. $142,000 for elementary and high school education alone. I created a new spreadsheet, fingers moving automatically across the keyboard after decades of project management. Column headers, date, description, amount, category, running total. 28 years of fatherhood reduced to data points and formulas that told a story Lillian had never wanted to hear. Northwestern University's folder came next, significantly thicker than the others, bulging with dormitory contracts, meal plan agreements, and study abroad program documentation. Tuition alone, $58,000 per year for 4 years. Room and board, another $18,000 annually. Spring break in Cancun during her junior year, $4,500. Summer in Italy during her essential art history phase, $9,800. This is how people in my program network, Dad, she'd explained about the Italy trip. This isn't just vacation, it's professional development. Page by page, receipt by receipt, the numbers climbed relentlessly. Northwestern total, $312,000. 4 years of college education that cost more than most families earn in 6 years of combined income. The transportation folder revealed its own devastating patterns. First car at 16, reliable Honda Civic for $22,000. Everyone else drives luxury cars, Dad. This is kind of embarrassing when my friends see it. Second car at 19, BMW 328i for $35,000 because image matters in my social circles. Third car at 24, BMW X5 SUV for $48,000 because Preston's associates all drive luxury vehicles, and first impressions are everything in business. Each vehicle came with comprehensive insurance premiums, regular maintenance costs, and registration fees that Lillian never saw or acknowledged. Hidden expenses that devoted fathers absorbed without complaint or recognition. My phone buzzed insistently. Lillian's name flashed on the screen again. I let it ring, adding another entry to my ever-growing spreadsheet. iPhone 14 Pro Max, $1,299. The living expenses folder contained the darkest financial surprises. Post-graduation apartment in Lincoln Park, $3,200 monthly rent for 3 years. Paid directly from my business account to ensure her credit remained pristine. Credit card payments when her spending consistently exceeded the generous monthly allowance I provided, averaging $1,500 monthly for 2 years running. Designer clothing purchases, luxury spa treatments, vacation trips with friends whose parents funded identical lifestyles of entitlement and excess. Each expense seemed reasonable in isolation, but revealed a terrifying pattern when combined. The totals accumulated like compound interest over decades. Education, $454,000. Transportation, $89,000. Housing support, $147,000. Personal expenses, $203,000. Wedding costs, $178,000. My calculator displayed the devastating final sum, $1,071,000. Over $1 million spent gradually across 28 years, each individual expense seeming manageable and justified in isolation. Private school represented investment in her future. College education opened doors to opportunity. Reliable transportation ensured safety and independence. Quality clothing built confidence and social acceptance. The wedding celebrated love and new beginnings. But the comprehensive pattern told a completely different story. Lillian had never contributed a single dollar to her own support throughout her entire adult life. Never held meaningful employment longer than 6 months. Never expressed concern about costs or genuine gratitude for the enormous sacrifices required. I opened the photo albums I'd maintained meticulously throughout her childhood, searching for the moment when gratitude transformed into entitlement. Lillian at 8, gap-toothed and glowing after her first starring role in the school play. Thank you for coming, Daddy. Did you see how loud everyone clapped? I thought about you during my big scene. Lillian at 12, triumphant after winning the district spelling bee. I was so nervous, but then I remembered you were watching, and it helped me focus on the words. Lillian at 16 hugging me fiercely after receiving her driver's license. You're the best dad ever. I promise I'll be super careful with the car. When exactly had she stopped seeing me as a person worth thanking? When had I transformed from beloved father into merely a convenient source of unlimited funding? My phone rang again. Lillian's 17th call since our conversation ended. This time she left a lengthy voicemail. Dad, please answer. I've been thinking seriously about what you said earlier. I know I haven't been grateful enough. I know I've taken you completely for granted. Preston's family is threatening to leave town if we can't explain the financial situation satisfactorily. I need to understand what you want from me. What do I have to do to make this right? What I wanted was 28 years of appreciation that would never materialize. What I needed was assurance that Lillian finally understood the true value of what she'd so casually dismissed. I printed the comprehensive spreadsheet summary and organized all supporting documents into labeled manila folders: education, transportation, housing, personal expenses, wedding costs, each folder thick with irrefutable evidence of love translated into dollars, sacrifice measured in bank transfers and credit card statements. Tomorrow would bring conversations Lillian wasn't prepared for. Questions about responsibility, accountability, and the genuine cost of lifelong entitlement. Tonight was dedicated to thorough preparation. The documentation spread across my desk like evidence in a federal courtroom case. Over $1 million of support provided without question, appreciation, or acknowledgement. Lillian had lived like absolute royalty while treating her devoted benefactor like hired help whose feelings didn't matter. That arrangement was about to change permanently. My phone buzzed once more with Lillian's name. I reached for it, then stopped deliberately. Not yet. Let her experience what true helplessness felt like. Let her taste the bitter panic of financial dependence without guaranteed rescue. The education would continue tomorrow morning. Sunday morning arrived with crisp March air and the kind of mental clarity that comes from thorough preparation and righteous purpose. My briefcase sat ready by the front door, loaded with 28 years of documented evidence. Richard's associates had agreed to an emergency consultation at 9 a.m., professional courtesy between businessmen who understood that certain situations couldn't wait for normal business hours. The law office projected appropriate gravity, rich mahogany paneling, leather-bound legal volumes lining floor-to-ceiling shelves, framed certificates documenting decades of successful practice in corporate and family law. Margaret Richards herself greeted me in the conference room, her silver hair and sharp business suit projecting the professional competence I required. Mr. Clark, I've thoroughly reviewed your preliminary documentation. This level of detailed record-keeping is exceptional, even by our corporate standards. She spread my organized folders across the polished conference table, scanning financial summaries with practiced efficiency. Each page represented months of Lillian's extravagant lifestyle funded by my silent sacrifice. The total amount involved, over $1 million across 28 years, that's substantial even by our firm's standards for family disputes. I want this handled with complete professional detachment, I said, settling into the leather chair across from her. No emotion, just business law. Lillian needs to understand the financial reality of what she's taken for granted her entire adult life. Margaret nodded approvingly, making detailed notes on yellow legal paper. The comprehensive documentation supports multiple legal approaches. Given the established pattern of escalating demands without reciprocal responsibility, we have several debt recovery options available. She outlined the strategy with surgical precision that impressed even my business-hardened sensibilities. Formal demand letter, requesting complete repayment within 30 days. Detailed accounting of all expenditures with supporting evidence attached. Clear timeline for response and negotiation. Professional legal consequences for non-compliance clearly stated. This approach transforms a family dispute into a standard business transaction, much cleaner and more enforceable for everyone involved. By 11 a.m., the official documents were prepared with intimidating legal authority. Official letterhead, formal legal language, serious implications spelled out in terms that couldn't be misunderstood or ignored. The demand was elegantly simple: $71,000 repayment within 30 days, or comprehensive legal proceedings would commence immediately. We'll arrange professional courier delivery this afternoon. Signature required, creating an official legal record of receipt and acknowledgement. I drove home with copies of everything, satisfaction mixing with genuine sadness about the necessity of such extreme measures. Lillian had created this situation through decades of entitled behavior and casual disrespect. I was simply providing the consequences she had never been forced to face. At exactly 2:27 p.m., my phone rang with confirmation from the courier service. Delivery completed to Spokane Grand Hotel, room 1247. Signed receipt by Lillian Clark Preston. The formal legal process had officially begun. I imagined Lillian's initial confusion when the hotel desk called about an urgent legal delivery, her assumption that it involved vendor-related paperwork from the wedding disaster. Preston taking charge as the responsible husband, breaking the official wax seal with typical arrogance, then reading slowly as comprehension dawned like a nightmare sunrise. The phone started ringing at 2:54 p.m., Lillian's name flashing repeatedly on my screen like an emergency beacon. I let each call transfer to voicemail, each message more desperate and panicked than the last. Message 1, delivered in shocked disbelief. Dad, what is this legal document? This can't possibly be serious. Message 2 with rising hysteria. $1 million? That's completely impossible. You never said these were loans. Message 3, barely controlled panic. Please call back immediately. Preston's family is asking questions I absolutely cannot answer. Message 4, her voice finally breaking completely. I don't understand how everything went so wrong so fast. Please help me understand what's happening. At the Grand Hotel, Lillian and Preston were discovering exactly what financial accountability looked like when backed by serious legal authority. 28 years of casual gifts had been formally reclassified as recoverable debt with interest. Their comfortable dependency was now documented, quantified, and subject to standard collection procedures. Margaret had explained the legal process with crystal clarity. Civil debt recovery follows established procedures. They'll require professional legal representation to respond properly. That costs substantial money they don't possess for a debt they cannot possibly pay. Lillian's frantic calls continued throughout the afternoon. 18 missed calls, 11 increasingly desperate voicemails, each one revealing deeper understanding of her complete helplessness. The woman who had dismissed me from her wedding was beginning to comprehend what she had actually dismissed. Not just a loving father, but her entire financial foundation. The irony was absolutely perfect. Lillian had spent 28 years taking my support completely for granted. Now, she faced 30 days to repay it all, with serious legal consequences for failure. My phone buzzed again, Lillian's 19th call. This time, I decided to answer and begin the next phase of her education. Dad, please. We need to discuss this reasonably. Lillian's voice cracked through my phone speaker, exhaustion and desperation replacing yesterday's panic. I settled into my kitchen chair with fresh coffee, watching Spokane's Sunday afternoon through my window. Normal families walking dogs, children riding bicycles, people living ordinary lives without million-dollar debts hanging over them. The legal document. It can't be real. You never said any of this was a loan. The document is completely real, Lillian, as are the 30 days you have to formulate a response. But over $1 million, that's absolutely impossible. You never said anything about repayment. I never said it was a gift either. You simply assumed it was your birthright. In the background, I could hear Preston's voice, sharp with growing frustration, papers rustling frantically, the unmistakable sound of someone pacing like a caged animal. Lillian, I need to understand something, I said, maintaining my calm, professional tone. Who exactly do you plan to contact for assistance with this financial situation? Silence stretched between us like a chasm opening. Family, friends, people who care about me and understand that families help each other. I see. Well, you have 29 days remaining. I suggest you start making those calls immediately. I ended the conversation and switched my phone to silent mode. Let Lillian discover what I already knew with absolute certainty, that nearly $1 million in debt would reveal exactly who was genuinely willing to help versus who would offer polite excuses. The phone screen lit up repeatedly throughout the afternoon, Lillian's name appearing and disappearing like a desperate distress signal. I let each call go unanswered, each voicemail unheard. By evening, the calls had finally stopped. Monday morning brought a different kind of silence. No frantic messages from Lillian, No desperate voicemails, just unusual quiet that made me check my phone twice to ensure it was functioning properly. I drove to the construction site where we were breaking ground on a new medical complex. Physical work had always helped me think with crystal clarity. The sounds of heavy machinery, the smell of fresh earth being turned, the satisfaction of building something solid and permanent from nothing. My foreman Dave approached around 10 a.m., hard hat in his weathered hands. "Boss, you seem different today. More focused somehow. Everything okay on the home front?" "Family situation," I said, watching the excavator clear foundation space with mechanical precision. "Sometimes you have to make difficult decisions for people's own good." "Kids?" Dave nodded knowingly. "Yeah, I get it. Sometimes tough love is the only love that actually works." My phone buzzed with a text message from Lillian. "Dad, I've been trying to reach family members and old friends all morning. Everyone is shocked by the amount involved. Please call me so we can discuss this rationally." I deleted the message without responding. Another text arrived within an hour. "Aunt Margaret says she can't get involved in family financial disputes. She thinks I should learn responsibility. What does that even mean when we're talking about this much money?" Then another, delivered with obvious confusion. "Sarah won't take my calls anymore. My college roommate Lisa is asking uncomfortable questions about why I never worked real jobs. People are treating me like I did something wrong." The messages continued steadily through the afternoon, each one revealing Lillian's growing isolation as her support network crumbled under the weight of financial reality. My sorority sisters are all surprised by the financial details. None of them realized how much support I was receiving. They're acting weird about it. Called 3 different friends from Northwestern. They all have complicated situations right now and can't help. Funny how everyone's suddenly broke when I actually need assistance. Even my yoga instructor is being strange. She asked if I was having money troubles and suggested I find more affordable wellness options. Everyone knows somehow. Meanwhile, Preston was experiencing his own social catastrophe. His mother had apparently called 6 times demanding detailed explanations. His father wanted an emergency family meeting about reputation management and damage control. His younger brother was asking pointed questions about financial disclosure requirements before marriage. By Tuesday, the devastating pattern was unmistakably clear. Lillian's entire support network was collapsing under the crushing weight of $1 million debt that no one could comprehend, let alone resolve. People who had enthusiastically enjoyed her generous hospitality and expensive gifts were suddenly unavailable when she desperately needed financial assistance in return. Wednesday brought a markedly different tone in her messages. "Dad, Preston's family is pressuring him seriously about annulment procedures. They think our marriage was based on financial deception and hidden debt. Please call me so we can work this out before it's too late." I almost smiled reading that. Preston's family was apparently much faster at recognizing harsh financial reality than their privileged son had been. Thursday's message was notably shorter. "Nobody will help with anything. Everyone has elaborate excuses. Preston is barely speaking to me anymore. His parents want him to consult attorneys about protecting his personal assets from my debt. I don't understand how everything changed so completely in just a few days." Friday morning brought absolute silence. No text messages from Lillian. No desperate voicemails. Just an unusual quiet that felt somehow ominous. 25 days remaining. Lillian was learning exactly what genuine financial independence meant when you'd never developed the skills, work ethic, or character necessary to achieve it. The education was proceeding precisely as planned. Friday's silence felt different, heavy with anticipation rather than defeat. My years in construction had taught me to recognize when someone was regrouping for a counterattack, and Lillian had always been cunning when cornered. The assault began Monday morning. My assistant Rachel knocked on my office door around 9 a.m., holding a printed email with obvious concern written across her face. "Mr. Clark, I received this inquiry from Spokane Business Journal. They're asking about family troubles affecting your business operations and professional judgment." I read the email twice. recognizing the professional language that masked pointed questions about my mental stability and treatment of family members. Someone had been making strategic phone calls to local media. Any idea how they heard about this? There's also this. Rachel handed me her tablet, displaying a Facebook post that had already garnered over 300 shares. Lillian's wedding photo dominated the screen, radiant and beautiful in her $12,000 gown. Below it, emotionally manipulative text described a heartless father who had destroyed his daughter's special day and was now demanding impossible financial payments as cruel punishment for imagined slights. The post painted me as an unstable man seeking revenge against his innocent daughter. Hundreds of comments expressed shock and sympathy, several tagging local business owners I'd worked with professionally for decades. My phone rang immediately. Bob Martinez from Martinez Concrete Supply, a 20-year business partner and friend. James, I'm seeing some very concerning things online. People are saying you're having serious psychological issues related to your daughter's wedding expenses. Bob, there's comprehensive documentation that tells a completely different story. I hope so, because some city council members are asking questions about your current contracts. You know how politics work in this town when reputation gets involved. 3 more calls followed within an hour, all expressing careful concern, all asking diplomatically phrased questions about my mental state and business judgment. Lillian and Preston had been strategically busy. I found Preston's approach easily enough. His family name opened doors throughout Spokane's interconnected social circles. Anderson family connections reached exclusive country clubs, charity boards, and professional organizations where reputation was currency and gossip spread like wildfire. They were systematically using those connections to spread Lillian's carefully crafted narrative of victimization and paternal cruelty. Local Facebook groups buzzed with increasingly dramatic second-hand versions of the story. Construction company owner demands $500,000 from daughter after ruining her wedding. Spokane businessman sues his own child for wedding expenses. Local contractor having mental breakdown over family disputes. Each retelling grew more sensational and damaging to my professional reputation. By noon, I'd received 9 business-related calls expressing concern about my stability. The Spokane Rotary Club president wondered about my state of mind regarding upcoming community projects. 3 separate contractors mentioned hearing things that might affect our working relationships. Lillian and Preston had chosen their battlefield with calculated precision. In a city like Spokane, professional reputation was financial currency. Destroy someone's standing in the business community, and you could effectively destroy their livelihood and future opportunities. They had miscalculated one crucial factor. I had documentation. I drove home and retrieved the comprehensive evidence Margaret Richards had helped me organize. 28 years of financial records, categorized and summarized with legal precision. Every check, every payment, every expense Lillian had never questioned or appreciated. Then I made my own strategic calls. Margaret, I need to schedule a press conference for tomorrow morning. We're going completely public with the financial documentation. Are you absolutely certain about this approach? Once this information becomes public record, there's no retrieving it. Lillian and Preston made it public already with their manipulation campaign. Now it's time for documented truth. The next 6 hours were methodical preparation, worthy of a military campaign. I contacted Spokane Business Journal directly, offering complete financial transparency with documented evidence. I called the 3 reporters Lillian's campaign had apparently reached, promising comprehensive documentation that would tell the complete story. Most importantly, I contacted 28 years' worth of business partners, community leaders, and professional associates, people who had watched me build Clark Construction from absolute nothing, people who had witnessed my dedication to both business excellence and family responsibility over decades. Dave, I'm calling everyone on our contractor network. There's going to be a major story tomorrow that sets the record completely straight about Lillian's situation and my character. By evening, I had confirmations. Spokane Business Journal would run a comprehensive feature story. Local news stations had agreed to cover the press conference. The documentation was copied and ready for immediate distribution. Lillian's reputation attack had lasted exactly 4 days. My response would last one devastating morning. The truth, properly documented and professionally presented, would speak louder than social media manipulation and emotional appeals to sympathy. 24 days remaining on the legal deadline. By tomorrow afternoon, Lillian would understand that destroying reputations was a dangerous game, best played by people with actual substance and integrity to defend. Tuesday morning arrived with the precision and power of a controlled demolition. At exactly 9 a.m., I published 28 years of comprehensive financial documentation across every platform Lillian and Preston had contaminated with their lies and manipulation. The presentation was methodical, professional, and utterly undeniable. Bank statements showing $1,071,000 in payments across 28 years, each transaction documented and verified. Categorized spreadsheets breaking down education costs, transportation expenses, housing support, and lifestyle funding with supporting receipts. Photographs of Lillian at every stage of her pampered existence, each image matched to corresponding financial support that enabled that lifestyle. Complete transparency under the headline I had chosen, 28 years of parental sacrifice, the complete documentation. Below it, a comprehensive timeline showing Lillian's progression from grateful child to entitled adult, with every dollar spent documented, verified, and publicly available for examination. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within the first hour, my phone exploded with calls, but these voices carried completely different tones than yesterday's concerned inquiries. "James, I had absolutely no idea about the scope of support you provided," said Tom Bradley from Bradley Electrical Contractors. "My 2 kids are in college and I'm spending maybe $18,000 a year total. You were spending that much every single semester for decades." Bob Martinez called back within minutes. "I owe you a sincere apology, my friend. After seeing those bank records and documentation, I understand exactly what you're dealing with. That level of entitlement would break any parent's heart and wallet." The social media momentum shifted like an avalanche reversing direction. Comments that had supported Lillian's victim narrative suddenly looked naive and uninformed against the backdrop of documented financial reality. Screenshots of bank statements showing $58,000 annual college tuition payments. Receipts for 3 different luxury vehicles purchased without request or appreciation. 28 years of housing, clothing, and lifestyle expenses that most families would consider absolutely impossible to afford. Margaret Richards called at 11:15 a.m., her voice carrying professional satisfaction. "James, the response has been extraordinary. Spokane Business Journal wants to run a feature story about financial responsibility and family entitlement. You've managed to transform a reputation attack into a community education moment." By noon, Lillian's original Facebook post looked pathetic against the mountain of irrefutable evidence I had provided. People were sharing my documentation with comments like, "This is what real parental sacrifice looks like. No wonder he's seeking repayment. This level of support is basically a full-time job. Over $1 million. Most parents can't afford anything close to this." The Spokane construction community rallied completely behind me. Contractors who had questioned my stability were now sharing stories about my work ethic, professional integrity, and community contributions. The Rotary Club president issued a public statement supporting my position on financial accountability. Even the mayor's office released a comment about the importance of personal responsibility and family relationships. Dave texted me from the construction site. "Boss, the entire crew is talking about your situation. Everyone's behind you 100%. Nobody can believe what Lillian put you through for decades." Local news stations picked up the story as a compelling human interest piece about parental sacrifice and accountability. The documented evidence made their reporting simple and powerful. They merely had to present the facts and let viewers draw their own conclusions. Lillian's carefully orchestrated attack had backfired spectacularly. Her portrayal of victimization couldn't survive contact with 28 years of documented financial reality, presented with professional competence. The community that had briefly questioned my stability was now questioning hers, and more importantly, questioning the values that had created such entitlement. Preston's family connections actually worked against them now. Their exclusive social circle was seeing exactly what kind of people they had welcomed into their prestigious network. Manipulative individuals willing to spread lies about a respected businessman who had simply documented the complete truth. Anderson family credibility was being used to spread false narratives, and that community doesn't forgive such social embarrassment easily. By evening, the narrative had completely reversed throughout Spokane's business and social communities. Lillian and Preston weren't victims of a cruel, unstable father. They were entitled individuals who had viciously attacked a generous parent when he finally established reasonable boundaries. The documentation told a story that emotional manipulation couldn't counter or overcome. Every bank statement was a chapter in 28 years of sacrifice. Every receipt represented evidence of love that had been taken completely for granted. My phone buzzed with a text from Lillian. "Dad, please take down those financial records immediately. People are saying terrible things about us. This is destroying our reputation permanently." I deleted the message without responding. 23 days remaining. The education was nearly complete, but the most important lessons were yet to come. Preston's phone rang at 6:47 a.m., Wednesday morning, jolting both of them from restless, anxious sleep. The hotel room had grown smaller with each passing day, filled with the suffocating weight of social media catastrophe, mounting financial pressure, and complete isolation from their former support networks. "Preston, this is your father." The voice carried through the speaker with unmistakable authority and barely controlled anger. "We need to discuss this situation immediately." Lillian watched Preston's face drain of all color as he listened to demands she couldn't quite hear but could certainly feel. His responses were clipped, defensive, increasingly desperate. "Yes, I understand the implications completely. No, I didn't know about the extent of the documentation. The situation is far more complicated than we initially anticipated." The conversation lasted 14 excruciating minutes. When Preston finally hung up, he stared at the phone for a long moment before speaking, his voice carrying a finality Lillian had never heard before. "My family wants me home today. Immediately." "Home?" Lillian felt panic rising in her chest like ice water. "Preston, this is temporary. Your father will calm down once the initial shock passes." "Lillian, stop." His voice carried devastating finality. "My father received calls yesterday from 4 different business partners asking about our family's association with financial fraud and social media manipulation." "Financial fraud? That's absolutely ridiculous. This is a family dispute that got completely out of hand." Preston began pulling clothes from drawers, shoving them into his expensive leather suitcase with sharp, angry movements that spoke louder than words. "Your father published comprehensive bank records showing over $1 million in support you never acknowledged, never appreciated, never even recognized. To my family's social circle, that looks like deliberate deception at best, financial manipulation at worst." Lillian felt her world tilting dangerously. "You're leaving? We just got married 6 days ago. 6 days that have systematically destroyed my professional reputation and my family's standing in the community." Preston's packing grew more aggressive, more final. "I have a trust fund, Lillian. Business prospects. A future that depends entirely on maintaining certain relationships and social standing." "What about our relationship? What about our marriage vows and commitment?" Preston stopped packing and looked at her directly for the first time since the phone call, his expression cold and calculating. "What marriage? You brought me into a financial disaster without any warning. Your father is demanding nearly $1 million in repayment, and you have absolutely no way to pay it." His voice grew harder, more businesslike. "My family attorney says I need to protect myself from potential legal and financial liability." "Liability? I'm your wife. We're supposed to support each other. You're a financial burden with no assets and massive debt obligations." The words hit Lillian like physical blows. "My family cannot afford to be associated with this level of scandal and social embarrassment." Lillian's phone, silent for hours, suddenly buzzed with a text from Preston's mother. "Lillian, dear, Preston needs to come home immediately. Family obligations, you understand. We're sure you'll work everything out with your father." The politeness somehow made it worse. Even Preston's mother, who had praised Lillian's grace and beauty throughout the wedding planning, was cutting ties with surgical precision. "Preston, please. We can work through this together as a team. My father is angry, but he loves me. This will blow over eventually. Lillian, look around." Preston gestured at her laptop, still open to hundreds of devastating social media comments. "This isn't blowing over. Your father published detailed financial records going back 28 years. People are calling you a trust fund baby who never worked a day in her life." He paused, then delivered the final blow. "They're absolutely right." The accusation stung because it was completely accurate. Lillian had never held meaningful employment longer than 6 months, had never contributed financially to her own support, had never questioned where her comfortable lifestyle originated or what it cost her father. "I was being a daughter. Daughters are supposed to be supported by their fathers. Not to the tune of over $1 million across 28 years without any gratitude, reciprocation, or basic acknowledgement." Preston zipped his suitcase closed with aggressive finality. "My family operates in circles where people actually contribute to society. They build businesses, support charities, create genuine value. What have you ever created besides expenses and expectations?" Lillian felt something fundamental breaking inside her chest. Not just her marriage, but her entire understanding of herself and her place in the world. "Where will I go? I don't have money for extended hotel stays. My credit cards are maxed out from wedding expenses. Everyone has stopped talking to me." Preston paused at the door, his hand on the handle, and for a moment his expression softened slightly. "Call your father, apologize sincerely, accept complete responsibility for your behavior. Maybe he'll help you figure out how to become an actual adult. Preston, please don't leave me alone like this. Lillian, I've been alone in this marriage since it started. You never contributed anything except expectations and endless expenses." His voice carried a trace of sadness now. "Maybe losing everything will teach you something your father's money never could." The door closed behind him with devastating finality. Lillian stared at the hotel room that suddenly felt vast and empty. Her wedding dress still hung in the closet, a $12,000 reminder of 6 days that had completely destroyed her entire life. No husband, no family support, no friends willing to help, no money, no job skills, no prospects. For the first time in 28 years, Lillian Clark Preston was completely and utterly alone. She picked up her phone and scrolled to a contact she hadn't called since that first desperate Saturday. Her father's information appeared on the screen like a lifeline she wasn't sure she deserved to grasp. 22 days remaining to find nearly $1 million she didn't have, to rebuild relationships she had destroyed, to become someone she had never been before. The phone rang once before a familiar voice answered, carrying none of the warmth she remembered from childhood, but no cruelty either. Just calm acknowledgement that his daughter was finally calling after losing absolutely everything. "Hello, Lillian." "Dad?" The word came out broken, barely above a whisper. I sat in my home office, surrounded by the documentation that had destroyed her carefully constructed life. Through my window, ordinary families were walking dogs, and children were riding bicycles, people living normal lives without million-dollar debts hanging over their heads like storm clouds. I don't know where to start." "Start with the truth," I said calmly. "Do you understand what happened this week?" I could hear her breathing, could picture her staring at the hotel room around her, at Preston's absence, at the laptop screen, still showing hundreds of comments condemning her behavior and character. The weight of 28 years of thoughtless entitlement seemed to crash down on her all at once. "I lost everything." Her voice cracked with the first genuine emotion I'd heard from her in years. "My husband left me this morning. His family cut me off completely. I don't have money for tonight's hotel bill." Tears came freely now. Everyone hates me. Everyone sees exactly what I became. Do you understand why? The question hung in the air like a challenge she'd never been forced to face. For 28 years, Lillian had blamed others for her problems, made excuses, found someone else responsible for every consequence of her choices. Not this time. Because I treated you like a bank account instead of a person. The admission came slowly, painfully. Because I never appreciated what you sacrificed for me. Because I was selfish and entitled and cruel to the man who gave me everything. Silence stretched between us. I could hear her breathing, processing the magnitude of her behavior over decades. Go on. I saw the financial records you published. Over $1 million across 28 years. I never once asked where the money came from, never thanked you properly, never thought about what you were giving up to provide for me. Her voice broke completely. I dismissed you from my own wedding, a wedding you paid for entirely. What kind of daughter does that to the father who raised her? What else? I tried to destroy your reputation when you finally stood up to me. I lied about you on social media. I got Preston's family to spread rumors about your character and mental health. The admissions felt like removing poison from an infected wound. I became everything wrong with spoiled children who never grow up. I became someone I don't even recognize. Lillian, I said, my voice softening slightly. Do you remember when you were 8 after your mother died? You used to hug me every night and tell me I was the best daddy in the world. I remember. The words came out choked with tears. I wanted to give you everything because I loved you more than life itself. But somewhere along the way, giving you everything became the reason you stopped loving me back. I never stopped loving you, Dad. Her voice carried desperate sincerity. I stopped showing it. I stopped being grateful. I stopped being a daughter and became a consumer of your generosity. What do you want from me now? The question terrified her because she understood it wasn't just about immediate help. It was about what kind of relationship we could possibly have going forward, if any. I want to earn your respect back, she said, her voice steady for the first time in our conversation. I want to become the daughter you deserve to have. I want to learn how to be an adult who contributes instead of just taking and expecting. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. But first, I need help surviving long enough to prove I can actually change. What kind of help? I need enough money to stay in this hotel for 1 more week while I find a job. Any job. I don't care if it's cleaning offices or waiting tables. I need a chance to prove I can support myself. The humility in her voice was something I hadn't heard in over a decade. Lillian, if I help you this one time, there will be strict conditions. Non-negotiable terms. Anything. I'll agree to anything. You'll find employment within 2 weeks. I don't care if it's minimum wage or involves physical labor. Pride is a luxury you can no longer afford. I understand. No financial requests for 6 months minimum. You prove you can live on what you earn, not what you can guilt me into providing. Yes. We'll talk once a week, but our conversations will be between 2 adults, not between a parent and a dependent child. You'll tell me about your job, your struggles, your progress toward independence. I want that. I want to earn the right to be your daughter again. I felt something shift in my chest. Not forgiveness, but possibility. Lillian, I'm going to transfer $1,000 to your account. That covers this hotel for 1 week and basic groceries. After that, you're completely on your own financially. Dad, thank you. I know I don't deserve. You're absolutely right. You don't deserve it. But everyone deserves one chance to grow up, even at 28 years old. My voice carried both sternness and the first hint of hope I'd felt in years. Lillian, I've always loved you. Now I want to see if I can respect you too. I won't let you down. Not again. I promise. We'll see. Actions matter more than promises at this point. I paused, then added the words I'd been unable to say for years. I love you, sweetheart. Now show me you can love yourself enough to become someone worth loving." The call ended, but for the first time in a week, Lillian felt something other than despair. Not relief exactly, but possibility. Hope. The chance to become someone worth respecting. 21 days to prove she could change. A lifetime to earn back what she had so carelessly thrown away. She opened her laptop and started searching for jobs in Spokane with newfound determination. Every entry-level position looked intimidating to someone who'd never really worked. But intimidating was infinitely better than impossible. For the first time in her life, she was going to earn something herself. The real education was finally beginning. The job search began at 6:30 a.m. Thursday morning with the grim determination of someone who had finally run out of alternatives. Lillian sat in her hotel room with her laptop, scrolling through employment websites that might as well have been written in a foreign language. Cashier, Fred Meyer, no experience necessary, will train. Waitress, Denny's restaurant, previous service experience preferred but not required. Housekeeping, Spokane Grand Hotel, immediate openings available. The irony of potentially cleaning the very hotel where she'd been staying wasn't lost on her. 2 weeks ago she would have laughed at the idea. Now she clicked apply without hesitation. By noon, she had submitted applications to 17 different positions: retail clerk, food service worker, receptionist, data entry, even a dog walker through an online service. Each application required her to confront the stark reality of her resume. College degree in art history, no relevant work experience, employment gaps that spanned years. The phone calls began that afternoon. "Ms. Preston, this is Linda from Denny's restaurant on Division. Can you come in for an interview tomorrow at 2 p.m.? "Yes, absolutely." Lillian's enthusiasm probably sounded desperate, but she didn't care. "Great. Just so you know, the position starts at minimum wage plus tips. Are you comfortable with that?" Lillian calculated quickly. Minimum wage in Washington was $15.74 per hour. Working full-time, that was roughly $2,500 per month before taxes. Her monthly expenses at Northwestern had been more than that for sorority dues alone. "That's perfect. I'll be there." 3 more interviews were scheduled by evening. Lillian realized she had nothing appropriate to wear. Her wardrobe consisted entirely of designer clothes suitable for country club events, not job interviews at chain restaurants. She walked to Target, her first time in a discount store in over a decade, and purchased 2 conservative outfits for under $60. Standing in the checkout line behind families clipping coupons and carefully counting their money, she felt like an alien observing a culture she'd never bothered to understand. Friday morning brought her first interview at a medical office looking for a receptionist. Lillian arrived 15 minutes early, palms sweating, wearing her Target blazer and rehearsing answers to questions she'd Googled the night before. "Why do you want to work here?" asked Mrs. Chen, the office manager. "Because I need to learn how to support myself," Lillian answered honestly. "I've never had to work before, and I realize that's made me completely unprepared for adult responsibilities." Mrs. Chen raised an eyebrow. "Most people don't admit that in interviews. Most people probably haven't made the mistakes I've made." She didn't get that job. They wanted someone with medical software experience. But Mrs. Chen's parting words stuck with her. "Your honesty is refreshing. Keep that attitude and someone will give you a chance." The Denny's interview went differently. Marcus, the manager, was a tired-looking man in his 40s who'd clearly dealt with countless servers who didn't last through their first week. "Ever waited tables before?" "No, but I learned quickly and I desperately need this job. It's hard work, long hours on your feet, difficult customers. Tips aren't guaranteed." "I understand." He studied her for a moment. "You seem different from our usual applicants. Overqualified, maybe?" "I'm exactly qualified for what I need right now, a chance to prove I can work hard and support myself." Marcus hired her on the spot. "Training starts Monday morning at 6 a.m. Don't be late. Don't call in sick unless you're dying. Don't expect special treatment." "Thank you, I won't let you down." Walking back to the hotel, Lillian felt something she'd never experienced: pride in earning something herself. It was minimum wage plus tips at a chain restaurant, but it was hers. She called her father that evening. "I got a job," she announced without preamble. "Where?" "Denny's on Division Street, waitressing. I start Monday." Silence stretched across the phone line. "Dad, are you there?" "I'm here. I'm just surprised. I honestly wasn't sure you'd follow through." "I did, and I will. This is just the beginning." "How do you feel about it?" Lillian considered the question seriously. Terrified, but also excited maybe. "I've never earned my own paycheck before. Never had to worry about showing up on time or working hard to keep a job. It's a different kind of responsibility. Everything's different now. I had to buy work clothes at Target yesterday. Do you know I'd never been in a Target before?" Her father's laugh carried no mockery, just amazement. "Your mother would have been proud of you today." The words hit Lillian harder than any criticism could have. For the first time in years, she felt worthy of such a comparison. "I have so much to learn, Dad. About work, about money, about being a real person instead of just whatever I was before." "What you were before was my daughter, who I loved enough to spoil beyond reason. What you're becoming is my daughter, who I might actually respect. I want that more than anything. Show me. One day at a time." After hanging up, Lillian sat in her hotel room and calculated her finances with brutal honesty. $1,000 from her father would last exactly 1 week if she was careful. After that, she'd be living paycheck to paycheck for the first time in her life. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like freedom. Monday morning arrived at 5:15 a.m., with the sharp insistence of an alarm clock Lillian had never needed before. Her entire life, someone else had determined her schedule: school, then college, then the comfortable drift of unemployment funded by her father's generosity. Now she had to be at Denny's by 6 a.m., and being late meant losing the only job she'd ever earned herself. The uniform felt strange. Black pants, white polo shirt, comfortable shoes designed for standing all day. Looking in the hotel bathroom mirror, she barely recognized herself. Gone was the polished society princess. In her place stood someone who looked like she actually worked for a living. Marcus was already at the restaurant when she arrived, checking inventory and preparing for the breakfast rush. "First rule of food service," he said without preamble. "The customer is always right, even when they're completely wrong. Second rule, your feet will hurt, your back will ache, and difficult people will test your patience. Third rule, if you can survive your first week, you might actually make it." Training began immediately. How to use the point-of-sale system, how to carry multiple plates without dropping them, how to remember orders for 6 tables simultaneously, skills that experienced servers made look effortless, but required genuine concentration and practice to master. Table 4 wants their eggs over easy, but they'll send them back if there's any runniness in the whites, explained Sarah, a veteran server who'd been working at this location for 3 years. Table 12 always orders wheat toast, but complains it's too dark. Mr. Peterson in booth 6 has been coming here every Tuesday for 15 years and orders the same thing, but you still have to ask because he likes feeling important. The breakfast rush hit at 7:30 a.m. like a natural disaster. Suddenly, every table was full, orders were backing up in the kitchen, and customers were impatiently checking their watches while demanding faster service. Lillian's first solo table was a family of 4, parents trying to wrangle 2 young children while ordering breakfast before work and school. "We need this quickly," the mother said, stress evident in her voice. "I have a meeting at 9, and the kids have to be at daycare by 8:15. "Absolutely. What can I get started for you?" The order was complex. Pancakes with no butter for one child, eggs scrambled but not too soft for the other, coffee with cream for Dad, orange juice with no pulp for Mom. Lillian wrote everything down carefully, repeated it back, then hurried to input it into the system. She messed up the first order. The kitchen sent out regular pancakes instead of no butter, and the child refused to eat them. The mother's stress level visibly increased. "I'm so sorry," Lillian said, grabbing the plate. "I'll fix this immediately." "We really don't have time for mistakes," the father said, checking his phone. "Can you rush the replacement?" Lillian practically ran to the kitchen, explained the error, and waited anxiously as the cook prepared new pancakes. When she delivered them, the family was already 10 minutes behind schedule. The tip they left was exactly 10%, enough to show they weren't completely dissatisfied, but far from the generous gratuity she'd thoughtlessly left at restaurants her entire adult life. "Tough first table," Sarah observed, watching the family leave in obvious haste. "But you handled the mistake professionally. That matters." By the end of her 8-hour shift, Lillian had earned $126 in wages plus $47 in tips, $173 for 8 hours of constant movement, memorization, and customer service, the most money she'd ever earned in a single day. Her feet ached in ways she'd never experienced. Her lower back protested from hours of bending over tables. Her hands smelled like coffee and syrup despite multiple washings. She had never felt more accomplished. "How'd it go?" Marcus asked as she clocked out. "Harder than I expected, but I liked it. I actually liked earning something myself." "Good attitude. Same time tomorrow." Walking back to the hotel, Lillian calculated her daily earnings. If she worked 5 days a week consistently, she could earn roughly $850 per month in tips plus $1,250 in wages, almost $2,100 monthly before taxes. It was less than she'd spent on a single weekend shopping trip 6 months ago, but it was hers, earned through her own effort and competence. She called her father that evening. "How was the first day?" "Exhausting and wonderful." She described the morning rush, the family with specific orders, the satisfaction of receiving her first earned tips. "I made $173 today, Dad." "How does that feel?" "Like I actually accomplished something. Like I contributed instead of just consumed." "That's the difference between earning and taking." "I'm beginning to understand that. Also beginning to understand how much you worked to provide everything I took for granted." Her father's voice carried warmth she hadn't heard in years. "You're learning, sweetheart. That's what matters. I want to keep learning. About work, about responsibility, about being someone you can be proud of. I'm already more proud of you today than I've been in a very long time." After hanging up, Lillian sat in her hotel room and counted her tips. 2 20s, a 10, 7 ones, and assorted change. Money that represented hours of her life, effort she'd expended, service she'd provided to strangers. For the first time in 28 years, every dollar in her possession had been earned rather than given. The transformation was just beginning. 3 weeks into her new life, Lillian had established routines that would have been unimaginable a month earlier. Wake up at 5:15 a.m., shower quickly, dress in her Denny's uniform, walk 4 blocks to work in time for the 6 a.m. shift. 8 hours of constant movement, customer service, and problem solving. Home by 3 p.m., exhausted, but strangely satisfied. Her hotel room had been transformed into something resembling efficiency apartment living. She'd negotiated a weekly rate that stretched her limited budget. A mini refrigerator held basic groceries purchased with careful attention to prices and nutrition. Ramen noodles, canned soup, peanut butter sandwiches, foods she'd never consumed as an adult but now appreciated for their affordability and convenience. The work itself had become a source of unexpected pride. She'd mastered the point-of-sale system, could carry 4 plates balanced perfectly up her left arm, and had developed the ability to remember complex orders without writing everything down. Regular customers had begun requesting her section specifically. "You're different from most servers here," said Mrs. Rodriguez, an elderly woman who came in every Wednesday for coffee and pie. "You actually listen when people talk." "Thank you, that means a lot. Most young people your age are in a hurry to be somewhere else. You seem present." Lillian had never been called present before. Her entire previous existence had been about wanting more, better, different. Now, focusing completely on immediate tasks, taking orders accurately, delivering food quickly, Ensuring customer satisfaction felt like meditation. The financial reality was sobering but manageable. After taxes, she earned approximately $1,800 monthly. Hotel room, $800, food, $200, transportation, $50 for bus passes. Basic necessities, $100. That left roughly $650 for emergencies, clothing, and any unexpected expenses. It was survival-level living, but it was survival based on her own effort. Her father called every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m., their conversations having evolved from desperate pleas to genuine updates between two adults. How was work this week? Good. I'm getting better at reading customers. Yesterday I could tell a man was having a bad day just from how he sat down. I made sure his coffee stayed full and didn't rush him when he was ready to order. He left a $20 tip on a $12 meal. That's excellent customer service. It's also basic human kindness. I never paid attention to service workers before, but now I see how much their attitude affects people's entire day. What else are you learning? That every job has dignity if you do it well. That earning money is completely different from spending money someone else earned. That I have no idea how you managed to pay for my lifestyle while building a business and raising me alone. Her father's voice carried pride and something else. Hope, maybe. I'm proud of how hard you're working, Lillian. Your mother would be proud too. I think about her sometimes when I'm serving families, wondering what kind of mother she would have been, what values she would have taught me that I had to learn the hard way. She would have loved seeing you grow into someone who earns her way in the world. The legal deadline was approaching, 11 days remaining. Lillian had saved $1,247 toward the $1 million debt, a number so small it would have been laughable in her previous life. Now it represented 2 months of careful budgeting and disciplined saving. Dad, about the money I owe you. We'll address that when the 30 days are complete. Right now, focus on building your new life. I want you to know that I understand now. Every dollar you spent on me represented hours of your life. Work you did, sacrifices you made. I never thought about it that way before. Understanding is the first step toward appreciation. I have so much to make up for. You're making up for it every day by becoming someone worth respecting. After their conversation, Lillian sat in her small space and opened a notebook she'd been keeping, a record of daily expenses, work observations, and personal reflections. Day 23. Learned that the morning rush moves faster when you anticipate what customers need instead of waiting for them to ask. Coffee refills before cups are empty. Extra napkins for families with small children. The small attentions that make people feel cared for. Day 24. A businessman comes in every Thursday, orders the same breakfast, always sits in booth 12. He tips exactly 15%, nothing more or less. Today I noticed he looked tired, so I brought him fresh coffee without being asked. He smiled, first time I've seen that, and left 25%. Day 25. Realized I haven't thought about designer clothes or expensive restaurants in over a week. Too busy focusing on immediate responsibilities and genuine accomplishments. The entries documented not just her daily routine, but her transformation from someone who consumed experiences to someone who created value for others. Tomorrow would bring another early morning, another 8 hours of honest work, another day of building something real from nothing. For the first time in her adult life, Lillian was genuinely looking forward to it. 6 months later, the autumn light filtered through the windows of Denny's as Lillian finished her shift, wiping down tables with the efficient movements of someone who had mastered their craft. 6 months of waitressing had transformed not just her work ethic, but her entire understanding of herself and the world around her. "Great work today, Lillian," Marcus said, reviewing the day's receipts. "Your section had the highest customer satisfaction scores again this week." "Thank you. It means a lot. I've been thinking about that assistant manager position we discussed. Are you interested?" 6 months ago, the idea of managing a Denny's restaurant would have seemed like failure. Now it represented growth, opportunity, advancement earned through her own competence. "Absolutely. I'd love the additional responsibility." "Good. We'll discuss details next week." The promotion comes with a salary plus benefits, health insurance, paid vacation time, management training opportunities. Walking home through downtown Spokane, Lillian reflected on the changes that still amazed her daily. She lived now in a small apartment she could afford on her own income. Simple furnishings purchased from thrift stores and discount retailers, but chosen by her and paid for with money she'd earned. Her phone rang, her father's regular Wednesday call. "How was work?" "Marcus offered me a promotion to assistant manager." "That's wonderful. How do you feel about it?" "Proud, nervous, excited to learn new skills." She paused, then added, "Grateful that someone trusts me with additional responsibility." "You've earned that trust." "I've been thinking about something, Dad." "About the money." The $1 million debt had never been forgotten, merely set aside while she built the foundation of a new life. They both knew that waitressing tips and management salaries would never realistically address such an enormous sum. "What about it?" "I know I can't pay it back in any traditional sense, but I want to find ways to honor what you sacrificed for me. Maybe not with money, but with contribution." "What do you mean?" "I've been volunteering at the food bank on Sundays, serving meals to families who can't afford restaurants. I see children there who remind me of myself, kids whose parents would sacrifice anything to give them opportunities." Her voice grew stronger, more confident. "I want to use what I've learned to help other people. Maybe that's how I pay back what I owe, by giving to others what you gave to me." Her father's voice carried warmth that had been missing for years. "That sounds like something your mother would have suggested. I think about her more now. Wonder if she would be proud of who I'm becoming." "She would be. I am. I know I hurt you terribly, Dad. I know I wasted years being someone you couldn't respect. But I also know that this person I am now exists because of what you taught me through consequences. Sometimes the greatest gift a parent can give is letting their child face the results of their choices. I understand that now. The hardest lessons are often the most valuable ones." They talked for another hour, about her work, her future plans, the relationship they were slowly rebuilding based on mutual respect rather than financial dependence. After hanging up, Lillian sat in her small apartment and opened the notebook she'd maintained throughout her transformation. The early entries documented desperation and panic. Recent pages showed growth, achievement, genuine contentment earned through effort. The final entry read, Day 180. "I am not the same person who was dismissed from her own wedding 6 months ago. That woman was entitled, ungrateful, and completely disconnected from reality. This woman earns her way, treats people with respect, and understands that love requires appreciation to survive. I may never be able to repay the financial debt I owe my father, but I can spend the rest of my life proving worthy of the sacrifice he made. Not through guilt or obligation, but through becoming someone who contributes more than she takes. The girl who took everything for granted is gone. The woman who earned her place in the world is just beginning." Outside her window, Spokane's evening lights twinkled like possibilities. Tomorrow would bring another early morning, another day of honest work, another opportunity to prove that people can change when they finally understand what they stand to lose. Lillian had lost everything that didn't matter and found everything that did. The education was complete, but the growth would continue for the rest of her life. If you found this story compelling and emotionally powerful, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories of transformation and life lessons. Share your thoughts in the comments below. We read every single one, and your engagement means the world to us. What would you have done in James Clark's position? How do you think Lillian's story will continue? Let us know your thoughts, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you never miss our latest uploads. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the greatest act of love is teaching someone the value of what they've taken for granted.